Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that everything's working now. Everything went well with Artist's presentation and her Q&A, and it looks like we're back on track, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to get started. We'll let the questions come in. Remember, I stay here for a half an hour if there's enough questions. If there's not, then we just cut it short. So keep the questions coming. I'm happy to answer anything about my presentation. I'm happy to answer any general craft questions, anything you like. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate it. All right. It's been a while since I made the cards. They're really cute, aren't they? The house cards. They're so much fun. When masking, do you ever have trouble getting the masking piece up without ripping the paper underneath? Yes. It depends on your masking paper. It's going to depend on your cardstock as well. So what I try to do when I'm doing my masking is when I pull it back, I try not to just like pull up and away, but rather like pull as close to the cardstock as I can. That helps a lot. And that goes for also if you're removing tape when you're die cutting. If you like really peel it back carefully and really against the cardstock, it has a less chance of ripping. But overall, it's an experiment too with your masking paper and your cardstock. So I like to use the Inka Dinka Do masking paper. I rarely have any issues with that whatsoever. And that's one of the reasons why I use that one all the time. So hopefully those tips help you a little bit. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of factors in crafting that play a role in things. All right, if we have to miss a live Q&A, will they be accessible later to those who bought tickets? Yeah. So they're actually, whether you bought a ticket or not, or you're just here as a free ticket holder, you're actually able to watch the Q&As on replay at any time. So if you just go to that stressfreecardmaking.com/schedule and just hit the watch Q&A, it will bring you right back to the replay. Aside from Sharon's this morning, because we had that tech glitch. That one we deleted so that nobody gets confused. But Lardis is there, mine's there now, and they'll keep popping up. And I will load them into the classroom as well when I get a moment. Usually it's the next day or a day or two later. Yeah, after they go live. I'm new to card making, and I've heard speakers say that we can and cannot be on what can and cannot be on a card to be mailed. Also, how high as far as tape goes. What are the rules for that? That really depends on your country. So some countries, or a lot of countries, at least in the US and a lot of European countries, actually send post, like it gets sorted by machine and it's not sorted by hand anymore. So that means it goes through like a machine and it gets flattened. So some crafters I know prefer to put their cards in bubble mailers and not use 3D embellishments and things like that. To be honest with you, I've never had a complaint from a card that I've sent out, so I'm not really sure what gets destroyed and what doesn't. You're just going to have to ask the recipient. As far as the foam tape goes, if you just look up your post office or your mail carrier, they'll tell you how thick your letter is allowed to be. I know in Germany I don't have that issue with putting some foam tape, because I think the letters are allowed to be up to a centimeter, like a quarter an inch to a half an inch. So that's okay, but I think in every country it varies. Yeah. How did you make the leap into manufacturing your own line? So just to go over that a little bit, clarify here, I was actually contacted by CraftStash. So I didn't create my own company to create stamps, dies, hot foil plates, or things like that. It's almost like scrapbook.com or Simon Says Stamp or Ellen Hudson, like a one-stop shop. CraftStash is sponsoring our summit as well in the UK. And they had contacted me to see if I was interested in coming up with a line. So what I do with them is they tell me kind of a theme or an idea, and I go from there. I gather all sorts of images and inspiration, create kind of like a mood board, do some little sketches here and there, and then a graphic designer puts all of my ideas and designs them, and they take care of the rest. So they manufacture, they ship everything for me. So yeah, that was kind of how I made the jump. It was more of them reaching out to me than me actually reaching out to them. Yeah. Odd question, which Fiskars trimmer are you using in your video? It looks like a 6-inch wide, which is what I'm looking for. Yes, I don't know like a model number or anything, and I'm not in my craft room right now. So I can't look it up, but I just got it on Amazon. Just search Fiskars trimmer. I believe, yeah, you'll see 6-inch ones. You'll see, I think 8-inch ones, 12-inch ones are, I think, a little bit more on the rare side. Mine does have a handle though that I can hook out to 12 inches in case I have larger cardstock, which I need to do now and again. But you'll see it on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the techniques being done? Do you mean like my presentation that I did? I'm guessing. So if you go to stressfreecardmaking.com/schedule, you'll see for each day, like Friday has it'll have all the pictures of the cards and it'll say watch presentation. So that's where you want to go and you want to watch the people's presentation of them making cards. If you keep scrolling on the schedule, you'll see the pictures of the speakers, and those are the people doing Q&As, and it'll say watch Q&A. So you want to go and watch generally the card before you come onto the Q&A, if possible. If not, it's fun to watch the Q&As as well, because usually the Q&As I find aren't necessarily all to do with the presentation that was just done. It's a fun way to ask craft questions that you have. Personal question. What does your arm tattoo say? If it's too personal, it's okay if you don't want to answer. It is a very personal one, but I will answer anyway. I'm always kind of an open book with certain things. So my tattoo, I get the question all the time, says, I will carry you with me. And it has my grandfather's signature on it. So I got it when he passed away because him and I were besties. Where can we get your little house stamp set? Just so you know, the supply lists are downloadable. So if you go to if you're a free ticket holder, right under the video, it'll say download supply list and it's linked in there for you. If you're a paid ticket holder, you can grab it there as well. But in the classroom, you'll see that in the workbook. Craft Stash is the only place that sells my line. So you can grab it there. As far as I know, this week, they were down to like single digit numbers. So if you want to go grab it, hopefully they'll get them in stock again soon. Suggestion for best cardstock for basic rubber stamping and card making. That's another difficult one because paper is heavy and big, and therefore countries kind of have their own brands and lines. I use Nina Solar White, but I have to import it because here in Europe, we don't have 8.5 by 11 size. We have A4, which is a little bit different. And so I use Nina Solar White cardstock, just the 80 pound though. I don't find the 110 pound is necessary. And that's the one I've always kind of used and stuck with. Message on my shirt says, tell your dog I said hi. It's a shirt from where I'm from in Thunder Bay, Canada, and they make recycled t-shirts, and I'm a dog lover, so I'd prefer to say hello to the dogs. What's your favorite black ink that can be used with watercolor and alcohol inks? I think Ardith answered this question in her Q&A, and I think we typed it in the chat, what's good. To be honest with you, I don't really do any stamping when it comes to watercolor or alcohol inks, so I don't have a good answer for this. I think I use VersaFine Black Onyx for watercolor if I heat set it, but I watercolor maybe twice a year, maybe, if that. So usually I emboss the image, actually, so I don't have to deal with that issue. Can repositionable glue with regular paper work for masking? More than likely, as long as it doesn't get too stuck on there. I mean, you can use Post-it notes as well. If you're looking to save money on masking paper, label paper, like you can get full sheets of label paper rather than have like mailing envelope size, you know, like the labels, address labels. That's the one I wanted to talk about. So you can grab those too. But yeah, Post-it notes will work. There's also full back sticky Post-it notes. Those work best. But if you have the ones where it's just sticky at the top, as long as you stamp part of the image on that sticky part, you can use that too. But yeah, repositionable glue with regular paper should work. It might not work for if you're going to like ink blend over top of it multiple times. That might seep through really quickly, but if you're just going to stamp quickly on top of it, shouldn't be an issue. Good morning. Do we have to create an account to get the freebie? Yes, so majority of the freebies, when you download them, you have to either give them your email address or have them sign up for an account. For mine, I think I have it set that you have to set up an account because you'll also get the offer to add on the live class if you want to. And I can't offer the live class add-on if you don't create an account. Yeah. I am in Europe. I live in Germany. I'm from Canada. And currently I'm in Switzerland, actually. Checked myself into a hotel for the weekend so I can have my peace and focus on the summit. I am a teacher. Yes. So I am a teacher, elementary teacher at the moment. And I am going on maternity leave, though, technically next week. How do you set up your workspace to make the most of limited time? I have like my box tour. So I have a brand box, which is similar to Create Room's Dream Box, if you've ever seen one. I've also had every type of craft room under the sun, from just a simple Alex drawer to IKEA furniture and I always have my craft room in a public area. So I don't necessarily have a setup for limited time, but I do have a very convenient, small, manageable setup that you can watch on YouTube. By the time you get your supplies, you're too tired to craft. I hear you. For your class, available for discount in your freebies. If we cannot attend that date, will it be available on replay? Yes, yes. I always put my live classes as a replay afterwards in case you can't make it. Life happens, things come up. So you can grab it if you'd like. All right. How long did it take you to feel like you were good at this technique? And what advice do you have for newbies? Masking technique. I know it's a real struggle for a lot of people with masking. I have a bit of a math mind. So for me, the idea of imagining the layers and what comes first and last kind of comes easily, unfortunately. But definitely just start out, honestly, with something like the house where you have just one object behind the other, a flower and a leaf. So you would stamp the flower first, mask it off, and stamp the leaf over top so that the leaf comes behind the flower. And then what you're going to do that like 5 times, okay, at least. And then try adding a third element to it, something behind the flower. So what you can do, for example, is stamp the flower, mask it, stamp the leaf, mask it, and then ink blend over top to create yourself a sky or something like that. And I feel like the more you do it, the more you'll build up the confidence to add more layers and think of it in a more in depth, because masking is just essentially what object comes first in a photo. So if I'm thinking about taking a photo of like a landscape or a room or whatever type of scene I want, let's say a Christmas room or something like that, what is first in the picture? What is going to be closest to me? You stamp that first, you mask it, what's behind it, and you just keep going. So I would just say keep trying. Try a simple flower leaf and then flower leaf background, and then keep going from there. Add a layer, add a layer, add a layer, and it'll become more easier over time. You can create some pretty cool scenes, especially if you're a fan of like My Favorite Things, for example, who have a lot of scene building stamps or critters and things like that. You can create some pretty magnificent scenes once you start getting good at it. They really make your cards different. What do you do when your mojo is missing? For the most part, I would say my mojo goes missing often. But what happens for me with card making is not just card making for me. Card making is also video editing, it's social media marketing, it's doing classes, it's my membership program. It's so like there's so many things involved. And so usually I'll bury myself in one of the other things and just try and improve on it. And then I'll eventually go back to having fun card making. I've noticed that I've been off work for a few weeks, and I really noticed that my crafting game has just like, I just want to craft all the time. So I think it maybe like has to do with de-stressing the other things around you to get your mojo back. But sometimes I'll just simply copy something directly or close to directly from someone else to get myself just going. And then usually once I start getting going, I'm going to switch this color, or maybe I'll add this stamp, and then you just kind of get into the flow again. Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's any other questions. What do you do with the cards you make? I send out cards to members usually. So about once or twice a year only, though, I will send cards out to my VIP members. And then I also give a lot of them to my mom. She's got a crazy bin full of cards that I've made over the years. It's kind of fun to go back when I visit and look through them, see what I've created over the years. And that's pretty much it. I'm hoping to get better at sending them out. But I generally make cards a lot of the times just for myself and then kind of go from there. A lot of the times I'll bring them to my school and my students will send them to their friends and things like that and write messages inside. So yeah, I don't really put a lot of pressure on sending cards except Christmas. Christmas I usually do, almost always. What are my 3 common Most common go-to supplies or tools, the ones I find I use the most. Misty stamping tool for sure. It doesn't have to be the Misty, it can be any brand really, but a stamping tool to me is a game changer. Um, what else would I say? At the moment, my die cutting machine as well. I use that all the time. And I would say if I'm picking something that's not just a standard thing in my craft room, layering stencils, I think is probably the thing that I'm using the most right now, and hot foil plates, because they're a lot of fun. The only thing about hot foil plates is I feel very hesitant to always show them on my channel because I know there's only a small handful of people that actually have the machine or the supplies. And so I don't want to make people feel like my videos aren't for them. So hot foiling I do a lot of the times just for fun for myself. Yeah. What are your favorite colors and technique mediums? My head automatically goes to Catherine Pooler ink colors. um, but I really love teals. But it's hard to find a good teal, I have to say. And I like pinks actually. I'm not really a pink girl. Like I'm not a girly girl, but I like pinks in my crafting a lot. And any sort of like yellow, orange, pink blend, because I think it's a blend where I'm like, I know that works all the time without creating mud, so I use it all the time. And technique mediums, ink pads. I don't use a whole. I like pastes. I like using, especially white paste. I love adding white paste to my cards. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really use on the regular. Not really. I'm a pretty simple crafter. I'm a simple lady. Yeah. Afraid to jump into hot foiling, I see there. Don't be afraid to jump into hot foiling. I mean, be afraid to jump into hot foiling if you have like a small craft budget. But if you have the budget for it, hot foiling's so much fun. Yeah. What makes Catherine Pooler the go-to for so many card makers? That's a great question. I think what happened in the industry is that everybody kind of had felt pads and they were all pretty much the same, I guess you could say. And I'm pretty sure the only people who had foam pads at that time was Stampin' Up. And Stampin' Up is like a direct sales type thing, so it's a little harder to get your hands on it, and they're usually a little bit more expensive. And then when Catherine came out with her foam pads, what the game changer for me at least was with the party collection, when the first few colors came out, was I stamped something in red and I wiped it off. And then I stamped something in yellow. And when it came to other ink pads, if I were to do that, even if I were to clean my stamp, I'd still get like a dirty yellow color. Like there's just so much contamination. And Catherine's, at least the party collection that I know of, didn't do that really. And that was kind of the game changer for me in the beginning. And then the colors are super vibrant. Like I find them just so in your face bright, the party colors I'm talking, because those are the ones I use most. Although I'm getting more into the spot colors too, I have to say. And so they were just something different. They were something exciting. And sure, you needed the refill when you need the refills when it comes to Catherine's inks. That's, yeah, definitely something. But you need refills in general for inks eventually. But yeah, they were just different and they were fun to use. And I didn't have to like bang my stamp onto them to get enough ink on them. They were just so juicy. So yeah, that's why I like them so much. How do we pick our first 10 or so Catherine Pooler ink colors to start with? She has so many options. This is true. I would just suggest going with a rainbow, like a red, orange, yellow, green, blue, whatever. And that's going to depend on your personal style and personality. So if you like bright, in your face, vibrant colors, then go for the party collection rainbow colors. And just pick the one that you like. Like if you like the bright pink, then go for the bright pink. If you like the darker one, go for the darker one. But order one of each color and then go from there. Any tips for overfoiling? Well, when you overfoil, so for those of you who don't do hot foiling, what happens is when you put it through the machine, now and again, you'll get areas that foil that you didn't want to foil. It's kind of like when you get stray embossing powder somewhere that you didn't want it. If you want to take it off, usually if it's just a thin layer of the foil, you can grab a sandpaper eraser, one of the ones from Tombow, and that will come right off. But try and cut your foil to the size of your foil plate as best as you can. And that will eliminate a lot of the overfoiling. And overfoiling happens sometimes because your plate is too thick when you put it through your die cutting machine. So if you just adjust your sandwich now and again, that can help as well. And anytime that happens to me, I don't do a lot of foiling directly on my card base. Usually I'm die cutting them after, or I'm cutting them out a lot of the times so that If I overfoil, it's not a big deal, but those tips should help. How do I store finished cards? I would love to tell you that I have a wonderful system. I used to, in my old craft room setup, just have them in a fridge bin, and I'd have them with dividers for occasions, birthday, Christmas, holiday, that kind of thing. Sometimes I didn't have dividers, but I did have the categories generally there. And now I just have them in piles in my 12 by 12. I have 12 by 12 bins in my brand box, and I just keep them in there, to be honest with you. I don't do anything with my stored cards that's special for organization. I have a ton of stamps on wood blocks. Any tips on removing them to add to the clear box? Yes, watch YouTube videos on it. I had a couple of wood stamps that I had done this with years ago, but I honestly cannot for the life of me remember how I did them. But there's a lot of great YouTube videos on how to remove those things from wooden blocks, especially from Stampin' Up! Consultants who have so many wooden stamps that you can watch, and they're the experts, not me. Yeah. I am from Thunder Bay, Ontario, right on Lake Superior. Yes. Have you ever donated your cards to charity? If so, where? Not specifically, but I have brought them to nursing homes, and I did that with my students. When I was living in Canada, I taught grade 6, and we had always made a trip once a year to sing Christmas carols at a nursing home. And we always brought a Christmas card for everyone. And then we also brought a birthday card for anyone. So we just kept them relatively generic, like without people's names on them, but just a really sweet birthday message. And then from your friend, and their students sign their name and then their school. And so that they could just give them out during birthdays or Christmas. And it didn't have to go to like a specific person, but that was something that they really enjoyed, and we did it every year. So yeah, that might help. Every country's different, every state's different. I think scrapbook.com does cards for kindness. Is that what it's called? Something along those lines. They also have something where you can send them in once a year, I think, or I'm not sure if they do it all year, but you can check there too. All right. Let's see if there's any other questions. All right. Okay. Last chance. Any questions? All right. I do see one there, Ardith. I'm just going to answer it here I cannot find the links to the technique. It is not on the schedule page. Is it only for paid subscribers? If you're talking about what I taught today, like the cards, you just have to, again, the schedule page, just keep reading. Okay. We have the presentations. Those are the pictures of the cards where you can watch the classes. And then we have pictures of the speakers, and that's the Q&A. Okay. So just keep looking. How does Catherine Puller inks compare to Simon Says very saturated inks? I don't have Simon Says inks, unfortunately, to compare them. So I really can't say. Yeah. All right. So if you have any other questions, throw them up, because I'm going to head off in a couple of minutes. Do you have any advice for people wanting to start their own YouTube channel or get started working with stamp companies? Yes. So if you want to start your own YouTube channel, just do it. Don't get all caught up in having the best camera, the best setup, the best supplies, the best tools. You don't need anything but yourself, because at the end of the day, there's dozens and dozens of people who create card making tutorials. And the thing that is unique about each person is themselves. So don't be afraid to show yourself or show your personality in your channel, and just do your thing. Okay. Try not to look too much as to what everybody else is doing. Because just that, if that's the way that they became successful, it doesn't mean it's going to completely work for yourself. Okay, so be yourself and people will love you. And get started working with stamp companies. Most of the time, it's actually easier than you think. Just post regularly on Instagram and tag the company. And once the company starts seeing your name over and over again, they may ask you if they want to send you product, or they might or you can reach out directly, but I would only reach out directly to the companies once you actually have content to show them. Be like, hey, I don't know, scrapbook.com, I've created 10 posts. You can check them out here, send them the links. People really love what I'm creating with your stuff. Do you have any opportunities to work together? and you'd be surprised. You might not get an answer, but don't be disappointed or discouraged. But yeah, tag companies. All right. So thanks everyone for joining. I did want to mention, if you are interested at all in grabbing even more ideas for the Christmas, just if you're going to the schedule page, you'll also see in the freebie section, the 12 days of Christmas, if you want to grab on the wait list, so I can send you out some more Christmas tutorials this month. If you can't find it, it's justinehovey.com/waitlist. And then if you sign up there, I can get you on there and send you out 12 video tutorials in October, all about Christmas card making. So I'm just going to shamelessly plug myself there if you want to check that out. And yeah, lots of exciting things coming in the next little bit. And I'm looking forward to creating more with all of you. And I wish you all the best in the summit, that you have a ton of fun and actually make some cards. That's what I would encourage you to do. All right. Thanks, everyone.